let's talk about your career. Everybody always says Amerie should have been a superstar because she's pretty, she could dance, she could sing. What happened? What do you think
know what
happened?
it is? It's timing. Like, everything is timing. Like, I'm a big believer in timing.
Back in 2005, one song came through and shook up R&B like a storm, introducing the world to a sound so fresh, so next level, it had us all hooked. Amerie's One Thing wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural reset. With that wild go-go beat and a groove that wouldn't quit, the track shot straight to the top and had the industry saying, "Who's this?" But hold up, just as One Thing was taking over the airwaves, something felt off. Bigger names in the game, names like Beyonce and JLO, started dropping songs that had some serious similarities to Amerie's style. People started talking. Was Amerie's signature sound being jacked? Or had they just borrowed it? The comparisons were real. Crazy in Love by Beyonce and Get Right by Jennifer Lopez had that same energy, that same vibe. Nah, this wasn't no coincidence. This was the beginning of a controversy that threatened to overshadow Amerie's rise. To get the full tea, we gotta rewind and look at the roots of this whole thing. We're talking about a young artist from DC who linked up with a visionary producer to flip the game, only to watch her style become the center of one of R&B's biggest debates. Stick around, cause this is the real, untold story of Amerie, the artist behind a sound that got stolen. Amerie. Her real name? Marie Rogers, but you probably know her as Anne-Marie. Born on January 12, 1980 in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, she came up in a home full of culture. Her pops was an African-American military man, and her mom, a Korean artist. Talk about diverse. Growing up in this melting pot, Anne-Marie was blessed with a front row seat to all kinds of music, from the US to South Korea. That blend of cultures? Yeah. That's what gave her that unique flavor we'd later recognize in her music. After high school, Anne-Marie headed to Georgetown University, where she majored in English and fine arts. But let's be real, it was her time in DC that truly changed the game for her. The city's vibrant go-go scene, full of those wild rhythms and live percussion, grabbed her by the soul. That raw, infectious energy from go-go? Oh, it became the backbone of her sound and her musical identity. Anne-Marie's big break came when she crossed paths with none other than producer Rich Harrison. Yeah, the same guy who put Crazy in Love on the map. Their meeting? Straight out of a movie. Anne-Marie handed him a demo in a parking lot, and just like that, magic happened. Rich heard something special in her voice and knew right away that her smooth, sultry style mixed with the energetic pulse of go-go beats was something no one had ever heard before. That's when she signed with Columbia Records in the early 2000s. In 2002, she dropped her debut album, All I Have, with Harrison pulling the strings behind the scenes. The album, with the smash hit Why Don't We Fall in Love, was a straight-up success. Critics were all over it, praising her rich vocals and that lush production. Anne-Marie was officially the new it girl in R&B, and everyone was buzzing about her potential. But honey, it wasn't until her sophomore album Touch that she really hit a major turning point. This was the moment Anne-Marie took the stage with a sound that fused traditional R&B with those unmistakable go-go rhythms. She was about to flip the whole genre upside down. But don't get it twisted. Her journey to stardom was anything but smooth. The same sound that made her a star? Well, that would soon become the hot topic of controversy and fierce competition. In 2005, Anne-Marie hit a major turning point in her career with the release of her second album, Touch. And baby, at the heart of that album was the lead single, One Thing, the song that would not only define her career, but lock her in as a straight-up R&B legend. Produced by the genius Rich Harrison, One Thing came with that signature go-go beat, those raw guitar riffs, and Anne-Marie's electrifying energy. It was a sound that was so fresh, so different, you couldn't find anything else like it on the radio. No wonder One Thing blew up the charts. It peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100, dominated the R&B scene, and even snagged Anne-Marie a Grammy nomination for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. Critics couldn't stop raving, calling it a total reinvention of modern R&B. And let's not forget, One Thing also made its way onto the soundtrack of the rom-com Hitch, giving it even more mainstream shine. But hold up, as One Thing shot up the charts, the whispers started getting louder. Had Anne-Marie's distinctive sound already been snatched up by someone else? You see, 2 years before One Thing dropped, Rich Harrison had worked his magic on Beyonce's iconic Crazy in Love. And let's be real, there were some serious similarities between the two tracks. The brassy instrumentation, that high-energy tempo, yep, all of it felt a little too familiar, and Crazy in Love had dropped first. The question on everyone's mind, was One Thing truly Anne-Marie's moment, or was it just the latest chapter in a bigger game of who's eating who? Fans and critics couldn't keep quiet about the comparisons flying around, with many suggesting that Anne-Marie's sound had played a major role in shaping Harrison's earlier work with Beyonce. But oh honey, the drama didn't stop there. Later in 2005, Jennifer Lopez came through with Get Right, a track that also featured that unmistakable go-go-inspired beat. Now, Get Right wasn't even produced by Harrison, but the similarities were too obvious to ignore. Once again, the debate flared up. Was Anne-Marie's innovative sound being snatched by bigger artists with more star power and heavier label backing? This didn't sit well with Anne-Marie, who was frustrated by how her artistry seemed to be getting diluted in the eyes of the public. In interviews, she kept it classy, of course, stressing her commitment to staying true to herself and pushing boundaries. But behind closed doors, it was clear the industry dynamics were playing a role. It seemed like the bigger names with those hefty promotional budgets were out here straight up borrowing her vibe, leaving Anne-Marie scrambling for the credit she deserved. While one thing definitely shot Anne-Marie's career into another stratosphere, it also opened the door to a messy chapter of competition and controversy. Her groundbreaking sound made her a star, no doubt, but it also sparked a debate that would follow her for years. Was Anne-Marie really getting the recognition for the R&B revolution she started, or was she being overshadowed by artists with more influence and power in the game? As her story continued to unfold, these questions would play a huge role in shaping not only her career, but also her complicated relationship with the music industry. After the massive success of One Thing, Anne-Marie's career seemed like it was set for the stars. Her second album, Touch, debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200, and critics couldn't get enough of its bold mix of R&B, funk, and go-go vibes. Tracks like Talking About and Rolling Down My Face proved Anne-Marie wasn't afraid to take risks and push boundaries in a genre that had been feeling a little too safe. But even with all that love from the critics, the shadow of comparison still hung over her, complicating her rise. As Anne-Marie toured and promoted Touch, the industry and fans couldn't stop debating whether her music was really hers, or if it was just a copy of what other bigger stars were doing. While the controversy kept her name buzzing, it also painted a picture where Anne-Marie always seemed to be standing in the shadow of the true industry giants. And that made it hard for her to fully claim ownership of the sound she had so boldly created, even as she kept making waves in R&B. By 2007, Anne-Marie dropped her third album, Because I Love It.
But I think Rich and I really, we helped to change music for that moment. And not just to say like, oh, I'm puffing myself up, but every artist, it's like every artist puts a brick, puts a brick in the wall.
A project that was all about her stepping outside the box and experimenting with new sounds. She mixed in 80s pop, funk, and new wave influences, leaving the formulaic R&B of the time in the dust. Songs like Take Control and God of Work showcased her evolution as an artist, ready to take risks and redefine what R&B could be. Critics were here for it, calling Because I Love It one of the most underrated albums of the decade. But of course, the industry wasn't exactly backing her up. Columbia Records dropped the ball, delaying the US release of the album and pushing the European release instead, where Anne-Marie still had a strong fan base. But here's the kicker. Without the full support from her label back home, the album struggled to make a real dent in the US market, leaving Anne-Marie to fight even harder for the recognition she deserved. The lack of proper promotional support in the US totally derailed the commercial success of Because I Love It, leaving it to get mostly ignored by the mainstream. During this rough patch, Anne-Marie decided she wasn't about to let the industry keep her down. In 2008, she made the bold move to take control of her career, leaving Columbia Records behind and signing with Def Jam. She was looking for more creative freedom and hopefully better backing. But here's the thing. Navigating the industry as an independent artist wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Without the deep pockets of a major label, Anne-Marie had to lean on her loyal fan base and good old word of mouth to keep her career afloat. But the pressure, it was real. The strain from her industry setbacks, combined with the never-ending narrative that her sound had been borrowed by other artists, began to weigh heavy on her. Yet Anne-Marie wasn't backing down. She kept pushing out music, dropping singles like Why Are You in 2009 and What I Want in 2014, showing that her passion for innovation and reinvention was still burning strong. But even with all that effort, Anne-Marie's career seemed to be stuck in a tug-of-war between her loyal fans and the mainstream success she once tasted back in 2005. The music industry's rapid shifts, along with Anne-Marie's refusal to compromise on her artistic vision, made it tough for her to recapture the same spotlight she once held. But let's be clear, her influence, it was undeniable. Folks may not have been ready to fully embrace her again, but they knew she played a pivotal role in shaping the sound and aesthetic of modern R&B. Anne-Marie's peak, without a doubt, was defined by the cultural earthquake that One Thing caused, along with the release of her second album, Touch, in 2005. At that time, she wasn't just another artist making music. She was out here reshaping R&B. The vibrant go-go rhythm she brought, paired with her high-octane delivery, set her way apart from all the other R&B artists who were stuck in traditional ballads or blending into mainstream pop. One Thing was an anthem, baby. It wasn't just a hit. It took over every club, radio station, and awards show that year. Anne-Marie's dynamic stage presence and that unmistakable voice turned her into a household name, practically overnight. And don't even get me started on the fact that One Thing made it onto the soundtrack for Hitch with Will Smith and Eva Mendes. That just supercharged her reach, making her sound pop up in even more places than before. By this point, Amerie wasn't just an artist. She was a straight-up trailblazer. She had no fear when it came to pushing musical boundaries. Critics couldn't get enough of how she merged R&B with go-go, paying homage to her DC roots while taking it global. It wasn't just about the music either. Her visuals? Iconic. The music video for One Thing had that same bold energy, full of vibrant choreography and unapologetic vibes that matched the track itself. And beyond the music, Anne-Marie's fashion was on another level. She wasn't just slaying with her sound. Her style cemented her as a cultural icon at the height of her career. Anne-Marie effortlessly mixed high fashion with street style, and you better believe her fans were living for it. She became a full-on trendsetter in the mid-2000s, gracing magazine covers, strutting down red carpets, and cementing her status as a multifaceted artist, one who had both the substance and the style. But even as she was slaying the fashion game, the whispers kept growing. Folks couldn't stop talking about how her signature sound was being overshadowed by the bigger names. Still, Anne-Marie wasn't sweating it. She continued to shine in that era with pure poise and undeniable authenticity. Her Grammy nomination for One Thing was the industry's way of saying, "We see you," and giving her the recognition she deserved for shaking up the R&B scene. For a hot minute, Anne-Marie was at the forefront. She was it, a living symbol of innovation and creativity that pushed boundaries in ways nobody else was doing. But here's where the bittersweet part comes in. The very sound that shot her to stardom was being snatched up by other artists. As Anne-Marie's momentum slowed, questions started popping up. Was the industry really out here embracing her contributions, or was she just another stepping stone for those bigger names? This tension, mixed with shifting label support and the changing landscape of the music industry, told a story. One that said Anne-Marie's time at the top, as groundbreaking as it was, might be short-lived. But don't get it twisted. Her influence during this peak, it's undeniable. Her legacy of artistry and boundary-pushing creativity still resonates today. After her high-flying days with One Thing in touch, Anne-Marie's journey in the music biz took a more independent, introspective turn. While her commercial visibility dimmed, her commitment to staying true to herself and continuing her creative evolution never wavered. The challenges Anne-Marie faced, industry politics, her sound being borrowed, forced her to flip the script on how she approached both music and fame. By the time she dropped her 2007 album Because I Love It, she was already reinventing herself. Critics were all about it, praising the project for its innovation and depth, even though it didn't hit as hard commercially as her earlier work. People started calling her one of the most underrated artists of her time. Her albums became cult classics in the R&B world, with tracks like Take Control and Gotta Work, showing her fearless experimentation and versatility, proving once again that she was way ahead of the curve. In 2010, Anne-Marie took her independence to the next level by founding her own label, Phoenix Rising. And under that banner, she dropped the 2018 double album 4am Mulholland Child's Zazz After 4am. This project was a deep dive into atmospheric R&B and introspective themes, showcasing how far she'd come, free from the chains of the industry. It didn't light up the charts, but it earned serious critical acclaim and was a clear testament to her artistry that refused to be boxed in. But it wasn't just music. Anne-Marie's creativity spilled over into other ventures, like writing and literature. She published a book and curated literary projects, tapping into her love for storytelling and self-expression in ways that showed just how multifaceted she really was. Anne-Marie's dive into the literary world was just another move that proved she wasn't about to let the industry box her in. She wasn't here to be just a one-trick pony. She was flexing her multifaceted talents in ways most couldn't even imagine. In recent interviews, Anne-Marie has reflected on her career with both gratitude and clarity, acknowledging the struggles, especially how her groundbreaking sound was sometimes swallowed up by bigger names with more clout. But here's the kicker. She's still proud of what she's done for R&B and the legacy she built as a pioneer of its modern sound. Her influence? Oh, it's still going strong, and you can hear her echo in the music of today's top artists, who are clearly drawing inspiration from her trailblazing work. And don't get it twisted, Anne-Marie's not done. She's teased the idea of reconnecting with Rich Harrison and dropping new music, giving fans a glimmer of hope for a return to her roots, but with even more boundary-pushing vibes. Her fans are waiting with bated breath, ready for that next chapter where she comes back to captivate the world with her unique artistry. Anne-Marie's story is one of pure innovation, resilience, and the power of staying true to herself. While her time in the mainstream limelight might have been short, don't ever forget, her impact on R&B and pop culture, undeniable. Anne-Marie's journey is proof that real artistry isn't about chasing chart-topping hits. It's about the creativity and inspiration you leave behind for others to build on.